In this lesson, we're going to cover how to create subassemblies, how to restructure and reorder components within an assembly and subassembly, and we'll also cover grounded components. The file that I have open is called Assembly Contact, and it is in the Chapter 6 Exercise folder. So right here, I am at the top level assembly, assemblycontact.iam, and I have just individual components. And you see that right now I can spin them individually here, but they all are held as a single assembly. So what I might want to do is actually maybe take this component and the pin and work with them inside their own subassembly. So a couple different ways of doing that. The first way is going to go back, let's say I want to create a new component, and from the template I'm going to go back down and I'm going to click the standard.iam. So it's assembly 5. Let's just call it sub 1. And I'll go ahead and click on OK. And I'm just going to click on a plane, even though in this case we're really not doing a whole lot with that plane. So now, in this case, what I could do is I could go back, I could place in a component if I wanted to go back and do that. So let's just maybe place in a pulley. And what I could do is I could create a new component. In this case, I'm just going to call it pin 3 and place that on that angled component right there. Spin the geometry around. I could go back, place in a circle at this case. Let's dimension it. Give it a diameter, extrude it, give it a distance. So those are definite methods to do that. I'm going to click the return tool, and what that's going to do, it's going to take me up out of the pin 3. You can always tell which environment that you're in by looking in the browser. So definitely I'm in pin 3, click return. And I'm now back up to the subassembly level. You notice at this point I can move that pin around. The first component that was placed, you'll notice as I try to grab that and drag it, I get the pin, the stick pin if you will, and that's telling me that that part is grounded. If I right click on that component either in the graphics window or in the browser, I can uncheck grounded. So now that it's ungrounded, you see that that part can move. Now it's highly recommended that we keep one of these components in the assembly grounded. So that means that it will not move and the other components will move towards that other component or the grounded one. So in this case, I'm going to right click on the pin and let's make that the grounded component. So as I try to drag that, you'll see that I get the stick pin. Basically cannot move it, but then the other one can. And in another lesson we'll cover about how to apply assembly constraints to get the pin located inside the hole. What I'm going to do next, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to delete both of those components out of this subassembly just to clean it up a little bit. What I want to show at this point is, let's say I want to grab existing components at the top level assembly and I want to drag them down into the subassembly. And to do that, I'm just going to click and drag, and you'll see you get the line going across. And what that line's going to do is going to actually drop it back in. So let me minimize that. And as soon as I get the line, just let go. In this case, it's going to tell me that I may lose assembly constraints. Go ahead and click OK. So I just moved the pin back in there. So let's move the locking disc down there. So again, click, drag, goes back down. Get the warning that I may lose assembly constraints. So now if I go back and move that component, again you'll notice that the first component that was dragged or dropped in there, in this case the pin, that is grounded, so I cannot move that. So now if I click on the return tool, you'll notice if I drag the subassembly, they move as though they were a single component. So think about the wheel on your car. So if we went back and took the wheel off your car, of course you're going to get the rim to go with it. So that's basically held as a subassembly. That's exactly what's happening here. So if I wanted to go back and make some changes to that, just double click on that subassembly, and at this point I could go back and apply an assembly constraint. I'll just go ahead and quickly do that. I'm just going to use the insert constraint, selecting a circular face, another circular face, and apply that. And let's go ahead and cancel out of the dialog box. So I now have it sitting on top of that hole. Click on return. There's two different methods to do that. So let me get back down into the part environment. So if I click on return, as I showed before, that's going to take me up one level at a time. Under the drop down, there's another option here called top. If you click on that, it will take you to the top level assembly. Another easy way to do that, at the top of your browser, just select, go all the way up, and select the top file name. Double click on that, and that will also take you to the top level. So restructuring, that was pretty straightforward to go back and drag those components from one assembly to another or subassembly in this case. What I'm going to do is I'm going to place in another component or two at this top level assembly. And what's happening here, you'll see that the order is coming back in the order that they were placed, which makes sense. But sometimes we want to go back and change that, where I can just drag that component up, so now it's been reordered. So the order is going to be important when we create our bill of material parts list. The number that it will sequentially go in is going to be dependent upon the order that it was placed here in the browser.